Well, hello loves, I'm popping in today to create a journal page with some of the new stencils. Yesterday, the last video that I did, I just kind of introduced you to, I've got 6 new stencils in the shop, and they are pretty fabulous, if I don't say so myself. But yesterday I created all these different tissue papers with the new stencils. And the new stencils are just like instant backgrounds, but I talked about pulling prints without using a gel plate. And I did that on tissue paper and just had a blast. I just went to town, you know, because I need more collage paper. But I did some really fun things in the last video. So if you haven't seen that, check it out, because I made all of these in that video and just played. Look at, oh my goodness, this just makes me so happy. Yeah, okay. I could just, I mean, I just went to town. Okay, so anyway, they're so cute. So check out that video if you haven't seen it. And so here's my journal page, and I've just put down a quick layer of gesso, just real messily, nothing major. And I just want to show you how easy a page can be with, like, when you're doing stenciling with your tissue paper and that kind of instant background kind of thing. So I've got a really messy palette out here because I've been creating a lot. So out here in this messy corner down here, I've got some raw umber, and I'm just gonna dip my brush in here and really kind of make it wet and juicy, and just do a wash over my gesso page here. Grab a towel and just go to town here. I got a clip up here in the corner holding it down because my journal is getting pretty full, and it's only February. It's pretty awesome. And just nice and watery layer here. This is called a wash, if you're not familiar with that term. This is what a wash is. Watered down paint, and then I'm just going to come back and pull that up. I missed a spot in my gesso, you can tell. That's kind of cool though. And I'm just going to change the direction of my rag so that I'm not just pushing paint around. I'm going to dip it in some water and just kind of make a few areas lighter than the rest so that it doesn't all feel the same. And that looks pretty yummy. And now I want to just kind of darken the edges a little bit while I've got my umber out here and it's kind of wet. And my paint's a little bit thicker this time. I didn't water it down quite as much, and now I'm just going to kind of softly tap this out. Get my cookie off. And then if I wanted to make it lighter, I could come back in with some water on my rag, but I really quite like this. Maybe a little bit. Maybe just a little bit. Just kind of tap that out a little. I just don't want it to be nice and even. I want it to feel real rustic and random. Okay, that looks good. And now I'm going to get this dry real quick with my heat tool. Okie dokie. Now, I have out here, I should have had this cut out before I started. I'll cut this out. Okay, now I'm going to grab, which one do I want? I kind of like that one. That kind of works. I kind of like that one too. Maybe I'll go with those two. Ooh, but this one's good too. Okay, I'll take those. Decisions. Okay. So, ooh, that's got some color in the background. I like that. So I think probably I'll use that whole thing right there. Let me see. So I'm kind of moving this over and this underneath here. I think I want another piece of, well, I'm going to wait. I'm going to get these down. So I know that I want that there. I want to stick that out a little bit so that that flower kind of shows through. Stick this out a little bit in here. And then I'm going to grab, this one's a good one too because it's got these really great, so I could kind of bring that, let me see here, look, maybe like that, and maybe a part of this over in here to kind of bring that down. And then part of this kind of in here. So I'm kind of working my way around, bringing it over here. Okay, so I'm going to get these down. I'm going to put them down with my fluid map medium. And let me rinse out my brush here. And try to get them back in the somewhat right spot. We'll see, because tissue paper, once you put it down into the fluid map medium, it's not easy to move around. It's not impossible. So I'm going to go here like that. Eeks. Put that down and move that around a little bit. Working from the inside out on my tissue paper so I don't tear it. I'm going to leave those edges hanging off for the time being. I'm going to put this down here. So I'm going to try and see where I'm at here. Okay. The nice thing about tissue paper is it melds really well on just about any surface. So if you have a lot of texture on something, oh, see, I tore it. It works really well on texture. That's why I love working with tissue paper. I'm going to tear some of this off up here. Let the rest of that be. Okay, and then I was going to bring this way, right? Yeah. And part of having some of this tissue paper on here too, it just gives it some incredible texture and wrinkling and just good stuff. Look at how beautiful that background shows through. Beautifully, the background shows through. And then I'll put this up here. And then we'll kind of see where we're at once it dries, how I feel about everything. Get in there. Take this off. And, okay. And when you're working with tissue paper, if you've never worked with tissue paper before, once you get it down and it's soaked in, you don't want to go back over it too often because you'll run the risk of tearing it. So I'm going to get this dry. I'm going to dry it with my heat tool, and then I'll clean up the edges, and then I can come back and take a look at how we're looking and my other things that I want to add to it. But this is a super simple journal page. I just want to show you what you can do with your tissue papers, that it makes for really quick creating and no risk, because if I perhaps put all of these down and then, you know, put my paper over here and go, I don't like that, then I could just take this off. Before it gets too dry, I can just peel it right off. And no risk whatsoever. Okay, I'm gonna get that dry. Okay, so this is somewhat dry. I'm a very impatient creator. And I've got some matte gel out now because I'm putting down some heavier papers. I'm being careful still because my tissue paper is not completely dry. And I'm gonna kind of bring that over, put that down, and then cover that up with my matte gel. And then got these flowers that I created yesterday with the new stencils. And I just did them real quick, and I showed you a technique of how I like to do my stenciling with my fingers and creating texture in a super simple way. And so I'm going to put that one there, and this one I think I'm going to stick underneath there. Yeah, so I just did these on regular cardstock or mixed media paper, and see, I'm going to move that over, and then cut them out. And the idea of this journal page is for it to be relatively quick and not complicated. And that's part of the reason why I designed the stencils the way that I did, because sometimes we just, you know, you just want to create a little, you don't have time to do a full layout. And the background, the layered up stencils are, you know, like an instant background. And if you can, you know, make some papers with them, and then you've got them, and then you can just, boom, put it down, and you've got pattern and interest, and you don't have to think too hard. And that is what I like. Okay, so I've got those down, and I've got some, I'm going to put a little bit, got some leftover paints on my palette here that are the same colors as these, and I'm just dipping my finger into water and into my palette over here. And I'm just going to bring some quick color. I'm going to bring this color over here real softly. And just kind of tap it out. Bring some of that purple. And to kind of resemble some flowers, let me grab a little bit of this color too. Just maybe some. And then I don't want it to look perfect. I want it to look real messy. I'm going to wet my rag a little bit and kind of tap this out. Bring a little bit of that color up here. It's already got some in the background, which is kind of cool. That was on my tissue paper, which I wasn't intending for it to be that way, but let's bring a little color up here. It's still wet. I'm working right into my matte gel. And then over here, I feel like I need to have a little bit of green in there too. So maybe a little bit olive green. And I wonder if I should grab my brush here. I've got some olive green out, real watery. Maybe kind of create some leaves coming down. I'm not exactly sure. Well, that kind of looks pretty good. Never know until you try. And you can always wipe it away. So I'm gonna maybe put a little bit of green in here. Kind of tap that out. Because I don't want it to, this is not realistic over here, so I don't want it to feel too real. That looks pretty good. I'm pretty pleased with that. For a, 10-minute journal page. Okay, now, I really like that. I'm really pleased. I'm going to let it be, I'm going to dry it, and then I'm going to come back and put my final shading on, and then we're done. That's a fast, easy, quick journal page. Okay, so here's our journal page, and I added a flower up here because I like to work in threes and kind of in a triangle. It makes it feel more balanced. But what I want to say is that this is a quick journal page. It's a chance for us to just get in our journals and create, no matter how much time we have. And this has been fast. And that's part of the reason why I designed the stencils the way that I did, because I wanted fast backgrounds, something quick that I could put down, be creative for a few minutes, however much time I have, and then move on and not think too hard about it, and just be able to have that sacred time in our journals to create. Now, I've also shaded around my flowers. I started out with, and my camera quit, so that's why I'm explaining this to you. I started out with my charcoal pencil, and I shaded around here, and just kind of softened that, and then did some soft sketchy lines around here, just to kind of frame that in and bring the focus here. I started out shading with my charcoal pencil, and because this is so textural, this is on mixed media paper, and so it's nice and thick, and which I love, and because of how we stenciled it, that creates some texture. But I couldn't get my charcoal pencil in close enough, so I've just come around, and I'll just do this side over here. I've just come around with my Stabilo All pencil and a small brush. And Stabilo All pencil, if you're not familiar with it, is water soluble, so it gives you this lovely kind of watercolor look. It dries lighter than how it looks as it's going on, but I also don't want to have some harsh lines and things like that, so I'll kind of tap it over, where I'm working, so it kind of dries softly, and you can see how it's dried fairly softly here. I did do some charcoal pencil work in some of these lines, not all of them, because that white is beautiful contrast, and I want to leave it like that. It's kind of graphic, and again, this is about taking a few minutes to create, not a few hours, and so I'm going to leave this like this. I did add some, you know, charcoal pencil marks here and a little bit down in this area to kind of really, you know, have some darker shadow over here. And that's it. I had my black soft pastel out and I've shaded the edges because that is kind of my style. It doesn't have to be your thing. It helps me see and kind of frame in my page and make it feel complete to me. But that's just my thing. And so this is a quick journal page that so often we think that we have to have hours of time to create, and we really don't. And that's, again, why I created the stencils that I created, because I wanted them to be super fast and easy. I've just taken a little bit of gesso and a fan brush now, and I'm watering that down on my palette. And I want to add a little bit of light. I've got a lot of dark over here, a lot of dark happening. And I want to add just a little bit of light. It adds this pop of brightness, even in all the dark. And I'm going to add a little bit more white to that. And kind of bring that on down here. Don't be afraid of blank space either. Blank space is good and needed, you know, as we're creating, because if we fill it up too much, it gets really busy and very distracting and that kind of thing. And it helps us focus on, you know, the message or our story or whatever we're trying to tell in our work or our journal pages. But again, I want to say this, sometimes as we're creating our journal pages, it just needs to be messy. It just needs to be what it is. And we don't need to think always about the composition. I'm just explaining it because I know I will get a question about it. So that's how I think as I'm putting things together. And because I've done it so many times, it's just kind of second nature to me at this point. So super quick and easy journal page with the new stencils, with the techniques that I showed you yesterday on how to pull prints from your stencils without a gel plate and have some fun play time with the new stencils. We did some stenciling with our flowers yesterday that created just the most gorgeous flowers, and it's a non-traditional way of how I stencil to create texture and visual depth. Like this has so many different colors in it, and it's just from our stenciling. So if you haven't seen that video, check that video out. I hope you enjoyed this quick journal page, and I will leave the links down below for all the new stencils if you want to check them out. All right, I will see you on Sunday where I'll be doing more fun goodness with our new stencils. All right, my loves, I hope your week is going well, and I will talk to you soon.